Hello, everybody. Welcome to another CISO Platform Fireside Talk, where we feature top cybersecurity experts across the globe. For those who are new, CISO Platform is world's first global online community exclusively for senior information security executives with over 40,000 plus members. And you can learn more at www.cisoplatform.com. We'd also invite you to become a member. It's free, and you get access to the exclusive network of 40,000 plus members. We'll drop in the link in the chat box throughout the talk. A very big shout out to our community partner, FireCompass, and AI-powered platform for continuous automated red teaming, penetration testing, and attack surface management. Today, we have Rick Doten. He's the VP Information Security at Centene Corporation. He's a seasoned cyber risk management leader with over 30 years in IT and 25 plus years in cybersecurity. He has served as a CISO for multiple multinational companies and advised numerous startups and VC firms, bringing deep expertise in risk engineering and security program maturity. We have Erik Laird with us. He's the VP North America at FireCompass. He will join us as a moderator. Most of you who've joined us before have probably met Erik before. We'll have a short fireside chat of about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how our conversation flows. And it'll be followed by a small, short audience Q&A of about 5 minutes. We'll open it to you guys. And thank you once again, Rick and Erik, for being here today. Thank you for your time. Over to you, Erik.
Excellent. Thank you, Preetha. It was a great introduction. And Rick, it is super exciting to have you here. VP of Information Security over at Centene doesn't quite tell the whole story. I've seen you publish. I've seen your speaking engagements. You've won multiple awards. How would you summarize like who you are, what you bring to the table, and kind of what message you want everybody to leave with today?
I want to say, first, thank you very much for having me. And that's a great, general overall kind of ethic question, right? And I would say that bring curiosity and always question. And I think that's a thing that is so important. I have a degree in English literature. I did not come up a standard way. I was technical kind of coming up, but the communication that, communication skills that I have are what probably were the most important thing in my rise, because I always was the face guy. Whenever a group needed to do a presentation, like, Rick, get up there and explain it to them. And I think that was probably the most important thing, which I still love doing today, is writing articles and doing these types of things because my friend Rick Howard, I was on his CyberWire podcast a number of times, and he always said, he goes, yeah, Rick, being me, he's like, I'm the analogy guy. I'm really good at kind of like taking something and distilling it down to some kind of analogy that we can all get. So I really am happy to be that for the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Your contributions are not only recognized, but there's going to be extreme value here. Wanted to keep it at kind of an executive level insight. The title of this is CISO's Guide to Managing a Dynamic Attack Surface. Those are, interesting words, but in where I sit, we're seeing our customers, prospects, everything, people in the community, and they're using static approaches to dynamic problems. And one thing that has been highlighted is the need for real-time, beyond real-time visibility, but they need proof, and it's no longer optional. So when it comes to risk prioritization, how can CISOs ensure that they've got eyes on everything across their assets, their attack surface? Maybe you can take that question and expand upon it.
Yeah. One of my I ran ethical hacking teams from the late 90s to late 2000s. So like before it was cool, we were doing that, and it was, we had to kind of pave the way about having to explain, what is real, showing screenshots, leaving droppers on things, because security people don't fix things. IT people fix things. And we have no shortage of things finding problems. We have a shortage of things fixing problems because as you said, and and what you do is you've automated the attack surface management, and you have leveraging AI to be able to do pen testing and vulnerability scan, but fixing of things. And so that's the bottleneck. So prioritization becomes that big issue, right? And it's not ours to say from a technical standpoint, it's a business decision to prioritize. And so whether it's a very, you know, kind of a common technical one is like, oh, it's externally facing and there's a known exploit to it. Yeah, okay, that's bad. But what does the box do? What is the data on the box? How critical is it if it is, do we have eyes on it to be able to, isolate it and recover it and then move on, or just wipe it out and we spin up something else and we, with a thing patch that was there. So those are the decision to like prioritize this tens of thousands of things that are being found every single month is like the critical thing, because we still have humans fixing it. And that's a whole other discussion about automated remediation. But I think that the important thing is trying to figure out the business impact, not the technical impact, not the CVE score, based on, is it development, is it production, is it critical data, is it something that is a, through the business impact assessment, we have some SLA with it, or if it's down for, 20 minutes, we know that that's a problem, or there's critical data that we need to report to regulators. There's a lot of things that are all business context. And that's what I think for the last 25 years, we haven't really included, because when I give them that big list of stuff to fix, and even back 25 years ago, IT is going to say, okay, is this real? And we've already kind of addressed that. But what is the impact of this, and what is the scale of this, and what do I need to fix it, and when I fix it, is it going to break something else, or if I fix it, if I upgrade something, do I need to upgrade other things because it'll be incompatible? And then I got to make sure that this regression testing doesn't affect the performance of it, right? So it's not just as easy as like, oh, here's a bunch of stuff and go patch it, and then it goes through this change control process where all the evidence goes to them and they say, yes, fix these things first, and then it may go into a green zone window to be done on Sunday night or something. So I think that on our side, on the security side, because we don't fix things, we find things, we have for decades kind of oversimplified we just need to find more things for you to fix, and not appreciating what the IT has to go through in the process I described.
So you mentioned a couple of different things that are related to process, but in my experience, cybersecurity's lost a little bit of credibility. Like we've gone to IT ops or development, said, interrupt everything. This is urgent. You must fix. I found more stuff than I thought I was going to find. And, this is a dirtier needle than other needles, as an analogy. But what are the most effective processes that are actually moving the needle? And I'd love for you to respond from 2 points of view. One is all the way up to the board level, where I know you have some experience. And then the second is, what is the operational impact? Because the concept of, or the visual I have in my head is like, here comes Rick with another high CVSS score, and he's going to tell me I need to drop everything and do something if I was an IT ops or the development environment. But what are the processes or the best practices that you found, whether you apply them at Centene or in just your worldly experience in cybersecurity? How would you advise people to take this on, rebuild some credibility, and get back to that risk prioritization? Because I know it's really close to your heart.
Well, it's as I described. First, I would never go to him and say, there's a CVE critical you need to fix now. Don't do that, because I don't know the business context. I don't know that this is a box that, yes, it's externally facing, but it's a sacrificial thing. It's not a critical business process. And we have other things that are eating our lunch now that we need to take care of. And so the technical people don't make business decisions. And governance. When I was a virtual CISO for 5 years, and the thing that I found most
Mhm.
common in companies all over the world that, is a lack of a IT security governance process, which links the business to IT. And
Mhm.
second was an incident response plan, which, kind of a whole other discussion. But
Yeah.
so defining that process of saying, okay, what is the intake when there is things? Because vulnerability management is also configuration management. And
Mhm.
those two things kind of go in parallel, that we have a process to define how we prioritize things, and sometimes it's a steering committee. So when things get on, it's like, all right, just like in development, there could be a bug bar where a group of folks decide which are the most important things to go out in this sprint. And so that process is there. Now, I understand, I have a bias because I'm in a large, well-funded, well-resourced organization, and 99% of the organizations don't have that, and there's just two people in security, but you can still develop a process by saying, okay, we're going to look at what are the impacts, the business impacts of these things, and they make the decision. You just provide the information, just like if I, want to go into, as I've been a first CISO twice, and the first thing I did in some of them was, hey, your users have local admin access to their computers. It's not my decision to take that
Yeah.
away. My goal,
Very
my
common.
role is to articulate the risk to the business, and they say, oh, so you're saying can be unstable and people would download stuff and we'd have more malware and it wouldn't be trustworthy and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, that seems a lot really inconvenient. This easy thing to do, we'll flock it. Yes, let's do that. So my name's not signing on this risk register. It is the business signing on the risk register saying this is what happened. So it's the same kind of concept, is that the business decides, you know what? Yes, these are critical. And yes, someone could own the box. How has it happened yet? No, not yet. So we're going to hold off because we got to do this more critical thing first for the business. And then we have compensation controls. We watch it. And if we see something, we can isolate it really quickly and spin something else up. So again, it's not just the fixing. There's a lot of mitigating controls and being able to do that. So discussion to the board doesn't need any of that. They just need to know, just at the highest level, are all the things in all the places? How comfortable do you feel that you are seeing everything and be able to respond to them? And if those two things are a no, then you need to do. I mean, that's the level that they're talking at. And because it's like, and what impact to the business may that be if you
Mhm.
aren't in that kind of visibility? Because it may be that it's not that big a deal, because we may have, something could be down for a few days. It's not going to impact business, or the data we have is easily recoverable, and it's not like, PHI or PII or whatever. And then also because, and that's where the challenge is it's different for every company, because like in healthcare, our biggest risk is availability of systems. Everyone wants to, who's
Right.
not in healthcare says, oh, you're worried about PHI. I'm like, of course we care about that. But systems being available and data being accurate so doctors can make decisions to keep people alive is going to be much more critical than whether or not there's a HIPAA spill. And hospitals will go out of business a lot faster if people start dying because they can't access systems or data is wrong than there's a HIPAA spill. So it all comes back to business risk.
Got it. So if you've mapped out that business risk from a cybersecurity perspective, you mentioned that the board might ask, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, but how confident are you in our posture here, or something like that. So what diligence do you require, or do you think is needed in order to get to that dynamic risk intelligence, or the proof? What function or process or policies do you have in place so that when you stand before the board and they ask you a direct question, you can give them a direct answer and say,
Right.
this is how I see it today. So maybe
Mhm.
unpack that a little bit, because I know a lot of CISOs struggle in that area.
Right. And of course, as with everything, it varies depending on your industry, your size, how regulated you are, your maturity
Yes.
level, et cetera, and also the risk tolerance of the organization. Some
Hmm.
organizations are a lot more tolerant to it because they feel that they can, recover quickly, or their business is not, like an, online retailer or a manufacturing company where there's some availability thing that for every 10 minutes the is not working, they're losing money at a rapid rate. And that's what trumps everything. So the short answer is going back to the basics: asset management, data protection, configuration management, vulnerability management, identity management. And so do I know that I'm aware of all of these things, and that I have my protections and detections in the place, and I have a process to be able to identify and respond and recover if something happens, and that we are compliant to the things that I need to be compliant to. And it could be an industry regulation or an industry standard or whatever I decide to measure. I was talking to a friend of mine who was going through like an executive level security, like CISO class. And she said, what would you say is, if you were first CISO going to an organization, what was the first thing you do? And I said, it would be define what I'm going to measure my program on. Am I going to be a NIST cybersecurity framework for the program framework? Am I going to be an ISO? Am I going to be a COBIT? What am I going to measure my controls on? Is it going to be NIST 853? Is it going to be CIS critical
Yeah.
security controls? Is it going to be something else? So it's like define these things to measure. And that kind of gets to your point, is like, I can't, unless I have a measuring stick to measure the quality, I don't know. And I'm just guessing. And so defining what I'm going to measure it against, having all the basic things to be able to go. And then at a more mature level, then you start looking at the maturity of the program, and a CMMI kind of look at how mature am I in, let's just say, cybersecurity framework, protect, detect, respond, and recover, identify, protect, respond, recover. And it's like, how mature am I in each of these things? And not only do I have tooling and observability, do I have a process to measure? Do I have a process to recover and restore and recover, and all those different things? So coming back to the short answer to the question is, you would use it against whatever framework or regulation or whatever it is I'm measuring my program against, and saying that I'm doing all the things that I decided was important to protect the business, and here's how I've measured it.
Got it. Got it. So you baseline the current state, you set up KPIs, or however you do it, the measurement side, so that you can have a consistent message that's progressive with the board of directors and your CIO counterpart and so forth, and clarity downward for the people that are, in the trenches is going to be key to that. So where do you think there's a gap today? It's a very broad question, but we hear all these things about AI, trying to cut through the noise. What's real? What's not? What should I look at? What are the biggest gaps that you see? And maybe just throw out an example of where somebody's doing a really good job of closing that gap, whether it's at Centene or some of the things you understand about the industry. What do you think in the
It's a very
context
broad
of this
question because, again, it
conversation?
varies for every company, right? I
Yeah,
talk to a lot of startups and stealth companies, and I always say there's not one market. There's, like, in the United States, there's a Fortune 500, then 5 million other companies. And that
yeah,
99% doesn't have a security program. They may not have a security person at all. And so everyone's fighting over 33,000 companies that have a security program mature enough to have one. And so among
mhm,
those 3,000, there are different levels of maturity. And in that, the program could be based on, because they're regulated or not, or whatever, and they may not care. So, the gap, I think, is going back to my very first statement is, do I understand all the things that I need to know? And that includes,
mhm.
do I, my three rules for being three rules of being a CISO is: one, understand what your business does to make money and don't do anything to disrupt that. Number two is, don't make your users your biggest hackers by making them go around your controls to do their job. And number three is, find your community, and community is really important to me, for those who know. And so, because you need a support system. And so I think the gap may be, honestly, people listening to third parties who are not in the best interest and don't understand the business. And that's why, to me, community is so important. Here in Charlotte, I'm the social coordinator for our CISO community. I see a couple of my folks here online watching right now. And only we are unbiased because we want all of us to be secure, because all of us being secure makes the whole industry secure. And and so whereas everybody else is like, what is your problem so I can sell you something to fix the problem? And that's a thing that we
Mhm.
struggle with, that if you are lacking in, maturity and funds, you're going to lean more on third parties who are not understanding the aspects of the business that I said initially. They are just
Right.
trying to help you solve a problem and take your budget. And that is like the biggest challenge to our industry, is there's too much bias of the people who don't or have a maturity level. And, we spend $80 billion in the United States on cybersecurity products. Why are we still not secure? Because we're spending bad money after bad money. And that is like, I think like the biggest challenge is understanding what the real problem is for your organization. And it may not be the hottest thing that is, being pitched out there. Honestly, that's the thing. Because mature organizations don't have that problem, because we have
Right.
a whole program, we have structure, we have all this stuff. But if you're the one, the 99%, everyone's giving you bad advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what else have you seen as, more people are adopting AI in general? From a security perspective, how does that impact your playbook that you mentioned a little bit earlier? Because when you look at your three rules, you look at your what I would describe as the KPIs and associated with your playbook, what are you going to measure everything on? But how has that changed with AI?
Not as much as people think,
Hmm.
because AI still needs, I need asset management to know what AI is being used. I need data protection to know the classification of data is being used on it. But I need identity management to know which identities are being used and what access the identities have. I need to control all of those appropriately. I need to have configuration management, and I need security operation to have visibility into what they're doing and ability to respond and recover when something goes a lot to do. What it brings, I mean, and then it's kind of this discussion we've had all the time when talks AI is like, which one are you talking about? A lot of people are still thinking about like, oh, ChatGPT and Claude and all that kind of stuff. And they're worried about their users putting sensitive information up there, to train the model. Okay, that's a 2-year-old problem. We have LLM firewalls. That's something that's been solved. Whether you choose not to develop your guidelines and your policy and set tooling to be able to fix that, is a whole other thing. As we move to agentic AI, as AI is embedded into all the SaaS tools, embedded to all the cybersecurity tooling, right? Whether it's doing AI for pen testing, AI for discovery and data collection for security operations, AI for auto remediation or developing fixes and stuff like that. We need to know what it's doing, what its access, what controls it have, and what could go wrong. So the risk management process also applies. It may increase the surface area, as we
Right.
talk about MCP and A2A and this whole, or this
Yeah.
whole ecosystem of agents. It's like, but that's no different than in 2005 when we moved to service-oriented architecture for cloud,
Hmm.
for web applications, right? So, so the like it's going back to what we did, because nothing is new. I have on my YouTube channel, I have a presentation I did at RSA when it was virtual, the year it was virtual, the about how when we moved from Novell to TCP/IP, when we moved from phone switches to voice over IP, when we moved to Wi-Fi, when we moved to mobile, when we moved to cloud, like all of the things we're like, oh my gosh, it's all new. It's like, no, it's not. It's all the same stuff we've always been doing. AI is in the same place. Now, the thing that I've talked about with AI that's over the horizon, again, being very mature and doing these things, is you know the fact that there's misalignment with agents and doing not want it to do because they're own little organisms. I refer to agentic
Uh,
AI as an unlimited number of interns with an unlimited amount of time. And I'm not saying they're stupid. Interns can be smarter than I am, but we have we keep thinking that they are, and I trust them equally, meaning like I give it a simple task and bring it back. But if we think that they're all just going to go do their thing and do what we say, they may do things in their best interest to solve the job. And so I have a paper about with a couple of writing partners on AI ethics models that we've been evolving, to help kind of control that misalignment when they decide to go do their own thing because they think it's the right thing, not maliciously. And then when they may
Mhm.
drift into an unethical thing, again, for reasons that may be not malicious at all, just like, hey, I'm trying to do this and
Right.
you're telling me to stop. And you didn't give me the guidelines of my priorities, right? So that over the horizon in a year is going to be what everyone's going to need to worry about. But I'm kind of looking at that right now.
Well, if I prey on your English background and communication skills, how would you summarize in a couple of 3 bullets uh, the guardrails that you'd recommend? Because you covered a lot there, and I think you've answered the questions in the chat. But like, what are some guiding principles?
For AI?
Yes, sorry, yes,
Okay.
in the
So
context of that
yes.
part of the discussion,
So
yes.
there's like I'll say 3 layers of it, right? There's the platform layer, which is no different than
Mhm.
anything else. It's an application, it runs on platform, it has compute, it has memory, it has storage, blah. It is talking back and forth to an LLM or to each other or to some MCP server or something. So I need to make sure that the configuration of those devices are what they should be. I need to know the data classification, data is protected as it's supposed to be. The identities are being used are the identities that we're supposed to. So we will still do that. The next layer is what it's doing and having visibility into, okay, what has it been prompted to do? What is the command that the LLM is given to the agents? What are the thing, and is it quality, is it quality? Because most of the things, when I see articles about AI going awry, it's not AI's fault. It's our fault because we didn't prompt it right, or we didn't put the guide rails in, or we didn't do the thing. So, making sure that what you're doing when you're asking and what all the parameters of it. So, one of the things a couple of years ago, someone said, it's not developers who are good prompt writers, it's in English majors, because it's natural language processing. It's natural language. It's not coding.
Totally
And
agree.
so
I
I'm awful at coding.
totally agree.
I'm good at natural language. So, and then the third piece is what I'm talking about with the ethics is like, okay, while I'm monitoring it, I need to know and I need to be looking at what is the prompt? What is LM talk to MCP? Once MCP talking to the agents, what the agents talk to each other? What are their thinking, their processing? And I need to be able to have guardrails that like, oh, why are you going and checking this? You don't need to, because it may completely benevolently, like say, if I want to do this job more, I'm going to recruit more resources to do this job faster. And I may not want that, but if I didn't prompt that, then I need to like correct it when it happens. And I have an article that I'm about to post, describing this kind of drift, and I call it the painted fence analogy. But essentially is like, sometimes I don't know. There are times within that whole pipeline that I can see things going wrong and we can correct it. But sometimes I don't know until I observe it afterwards. What's the output? And then the observation could be, oh, that's not what it was supposed to be. And now I need to go back and change it. So having multiple observation points, because what we found in the ethics model was that original hypothesis is having like a ethics framework, like a programming library. It's like, here's where all the variables are, here's all the things, but that's too static. We learn very quickly that that's not static because ethics expand, contract, are different in everything, different circumstances. Two things can be true at once, right? So it needs to be at the very end where the interaction with the human or in the interaction with the thing that's causing the output. And it needs to be a recursive, an OODA loop of, that kind of those things. And we lost Erik. Um, and so hopefully you all can still see me and hear me. But and so that needs to be at that point. And so the three things are A, infrastructure, B, when they're talking, and C, at the point where it's actually doing the thing to monitor and be able to realign it.
Absolutely. We have Erik. I think Erik is joining back. He should be with us. You can see him joining us in.
Yeah, sincere apologies for my
Yep.
internet glitch. I couldn't have called that.
Yep.
But so this has been super fascinating. And if you were to leave the audience here, I know we need to wrap up based on everybody's time and schedules. If the CISOs or security practitioners could do one thing, just one thing better, what would you ask them to focus on?
Their community, to reach out to their community and seek advice from, objective peers that will have been through the same things they are and help them, and depend on where you are in that maturity level, right? If you
Right.
have a mature, well-funded, well-resourced organization, be a mentor to them. And if you're not, and you're still trying to figure things out, ask your peers. And your peer group will give you like the direction of, I'm supposed to, build all this kind of stuff. And it's like, start with data governance, like as an example, could be the answer,
Mhm.
which may be something that most
Yeah.
people struggle with, right? So we don't know the answer because there's no one right answer for everybody. There's one right answer for you, and you need somebody objective to help you get to that answer.
Got it. That's very well put. So we are looking forward. I think you were talking about um, different speaking engagements. Where are we going to see you next?
I'm trying to think what I have already scheduled. I do so many and I forget. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're kind of like ad hoc. And so I'm also the in case of emergency break glass guy where it's like, hey, we had a keynote dropout. Can you come do this thing? I'm like, what day is it? It's like, what's the topic? It's like, oh, okay, sure. Um, I do a lot of things locally. I don't have like a great list of, where I'm going to be, but, and a lot of it is that I think that are going to, my whole goal is supporting my community. And so,
Yeah.
where they need me is where I'm going to go. And
I
I'm
get
not sure
it. I
where that
get it.
is right now. It's summertime. There's not a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. I
But you'll see
really
me on
appreciate your
LinkedIn
time.
occasionally when I'll probably writing more papers over the summer. So that'll be the
Yeah,
answer.
I can't wait to talk about or to read the Painted Fence paper that you mentioned earlier. I think that's going to be fascinating, and it is all about the community. The CISO platform here is all about working with other communities as well. So, little shout out to CISO platform for giving us this opportunity. And Rick, I want to say thank you on behalf of the platform itself, as well as Fire Compass. Thank you for being here and providing your insights. I'll turn it over to Preetha and we can wrap up.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
My
much,
pleasure.
Erik. Quick question. First and foremost, we're probably going to see Rick soon on CISO platform again. So I have two things I'm going to talk to him about. Next one, his RSA talk sounded very interesting. So I think we should do it for our community members. And the other is
Well, which one? Because I did one on neurodiversity in the cybersecurity industry. And then I kind of referenced one that was just a 10-minute like quick talk back in 2001 when it was virtual. I just did a recording of that.
the
But yeah,
first one I think sounds very interesting. We can do both. I think we can run a short survey and see which ones are more interesting to the community and maybe start with that one. And also, we're a lot about knowledge sharing. So anywhere I see knowledge, I'm like, can we have it for the community? And then next, right after that, I'd also, I found, I can't remember. There was something else that Rick mentioned. Ah, yes, your papers. So once you have your papers out, possibly, I think the members would also really like to read that and learn a lot from that. So do let us know when that comes out. We're going to be doing that. Erik, just small question in case I had an oversight. Have we covered the top two questions from the community? There are a few Q&As also in the question answer segment.
I believe his discussion around AI basically covered everything. There was something associated with how do you deal with bias and scrutinizing the responses you get back. But I took away that you answered the question. Rick, do you feel as if you answered
yeah,
that
I'm looking at it
question
now. I
as
was
you
looking
read
at the
them?
chat and I realized there's a QA thing.
Yes,
Um,
so there's a
uh,
Q&A which has 3 questions and there's a chat which has 2 questions, so a total of 5
yeah,
questions. I can see.
the one from Byron, which is a great question, and that's like the over horizon one. Um, on my LinkedIn with my friend, my writing partners, Noel and Wolfgang, we wrote on AI ethics, and that kind of answers that question. Is that yes, it's going to become out of alignment, and yes, it's going to drift, and you have to understand that. Data scientists, which those two writers are, they know this. It's only day zero when ChatGPT came out, made this available to the layperson who wasn't a data scientist, didn't know that there's bias in the data, there's bias in the model, and there's bias in the prompt, and understanding and accounting for that. Many times I've, in the last couple of years referred to the how many R's in strawberry question, right? And it was just like the model, LLMs are like librarians. They're not experts. They just know how to research. And the specific model itself is how a library may be organized. It could be a Dewey Decimal System. It could be a database. It could be alphabetized, which make it faster or things are easier to get to. But really, when you're prompting an LLM, you're prompting a librarian, which, Eric and I are probably around the same age. We used to call librarians in the 80s to get questions. That was our Google. And they loved it. They loved going and doing research, if you didn't have an almanac. And so that's, if we look at it that way, and not that they're an expert with all the knowledge in the world, they are researchers who have access to knowledge in the world, and the quality of the output is what we put in. So but yeah.
I think those used to be dream jobs, if I'm not wrong, from those movies. Do you remember?
A dream job as a librarian. I'm not sure, but
You could be in the
Yeah.
books, still get good money.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes you're like,
there we go.
hey, there's a book. It's a young, a young adult book who did this, whatever. And then like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. Or they will go and search and like in that section and say, look at all the summaries until they find it. And AI can do that a lot faster. Right. But they're just
Yes,
librarians.
absolutely. Okay. If we get any further questions, maybe I'll be sending it directly to both Rick and Erik.
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you so much for being us today. A big shout out to both of you, Rick, Erik, for such powerful insights and for your time. We really look forward to many more conversations in the future. By the way, a small announcement. There are nominations open for the CISO Awards in the US in Atlanta. So just go to CISOplatform.com and you could apply. I'd really recommend you do that early on, or refer a peer. Jim, I think you have a community directly you are talking to. I would really love them to have their nominations there. We have some great community members who've signed up as judges, like Anton Chubakin, Jim Routh, and many more. Literally all the names I can tell you. If you haven't already joined the CISO platform community, it's free. We really believe in knowledge sharing, and you get free access to 40,000 plus senior cybersecurity professionals. So why not? We've put a link in the chat, and we look forward to seeing all of you in the next one, which should be about in the end of June or the first week of July, I'm expecting. Okay, thank you so much, Rick. Thank you so much, Erik. Look forward to see you both soon again. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone.